All right, we are live. All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Daniel Barron. I'm an event facilitator here at McNally Robinson Booksellers. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we are on Treaty 1 territory, and the land on which we are gathered is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Inninewak, Anishinaabe, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. In addition, McNally Robinson Booksellers itself rests on the land once occupied by the Métis community of Roostertown. We're gathered here tonight to celebrate the Winnipeg launch of 111 places in Winnipeg that you must not miss. We're grateful to the ACC Publishing Group and the 111 Places team for publishing this book and for partnering with us on this event. In just a few moments, author Donna Janke and photographer Gindalee Ouskun will tell you a little more about the book and share some images. And after that, there may be an opportunity to ask questions if time permits. So if you are one of those persons here today who has a question, just please raise your hand nice and high for me to see, and I'll come over to you with this wireless microphone just to make sure that we could hear you on the live stream tonight. And then after that, I'll be back at the end to let you know how about getting a copy signed today of the book. But for now, I have the pleasure of introducing tonight's guest. Donna Janke is a travel writer from the Canadian prairies. She loves to explore wherever she finds herself, discover the many facets of each place, and share those stories through her writing. She applies that same curiosity to her home city of Winnipeg and delights in showcasing its unique character. Gindalee Ouskun is a Treaty 1 territory Winnipeg-based photographer and has appreciated rediscovering the city while taking the photos for this book. She specializes in lifestyle and wedding photography, and she works closely with the Manitoban Indigenous community. Please give a warm welcome to Donna Janke and Gindalee Ouskun.
Hi, welcome. Jin and I are going to talk a bit about our book and the places in it, and share some of our experiences while visiting, writing about, and photographing the places in it. And along the way, we'll read a few excerpts. But first, some thank yous.
A big thank you to McNally Robinson and John Taves for hosting this event. They do such a great job of events like this and made it very easy for us. And also thank you to Daniel for facilitating tonight's event.
Thank you also to publisher Elons Verlag and especially our editor, Karen Seeger, who helped arrange this event and who helped and guided us through the entire creation of the book. So, 111 places. What are they? Where are they? What makes them special? We hope you'll read the book and find out, but tonight we'll give you a little taste of what you'll find in the book. You'll find Arctic wildlife art in a back lane, the world's largest snow maze, the world's largest public collection of Inuit art, Canada's only museum of craft, and Canada's longest running blues jam. You'll also find an open-air chapel tucked away in a residential neighborhood, a 19th century crowd-funded tombstone, a Manitoba music museum inside a diner, and Guess Who gold records inside a community museum. Take a walk in a riverbank forest whose name means where the spirits dwell, and see wood spirits carved into dead trees. Enter what looks like a broom closet at a Howard Johnson motel to find a speakeasy comedy club. Learn why there is a naval museum in the middle of the prairies. Eat modern dishes rooted in traditional First Nations and Métis cuisine. In many of the chapters, you'll read about the history that shaped a place and meet the people behind them. People like the fellow who uses your natural body scent and your preferences to create a custom perfume for you. The family who opened an ice cream shop in Winnipeg on the first day of winter. The woman whose desire to bring joy to her neighborhood during pandemic lockdown by decorating her boulevard tree, evolved into a whole network of kindness rock gardens. And the man who created his own open-air museum of antique farm equipment at the Longitudinal Center of Canada. When I asked him what his favorites were, he said, "The rustier, the better." This book is part of a series of 111 Places guidebooks published by Emons Publishing. The books invite you to go off the beaten path to find the hidden places, stories, shops, and neighborhoods that unlock the true character, history, and flavor of a place, of a city, or a place you visit.
So why 111 places? Why not 100 or 110? Emons is based in Cologne, Germany. The company's very first travel book was published in 1984. It was a city guide about Cologne. That was the beginning of what would later become the 100 Places guidebook series in 2008. In Cologne, the number 11 is considered good luck. They even have an annual carnival that begins each year on the 11th of November, the 11th month, at 11:11 a.m. 11 places, however, would make a pretty short book, so they added another one. In front or behind, take your pick. Since 2008, hundreds of 111 places books have been published covering cities and regions around the world. And now there's one about Winnipeg.
I am so thrilled and honored to have had the chance to write this book about the city that has been my home for over 5 decades. The book follows the standard 111 places format. Each place has a 2-page layout with my text on one page and one of Jim's great photographs on the other. There is also a sidebar containing information about the location and how to get there, as well as a tip. The tip actually takes you to another place, either one that is close by or thematically somehow related. The very first chapter is titled "A Man Called Intrepid" and subtitled "Mural About a Real Life Spy." I love all the great murals in Winnipeg and knew I wanted at least one in the book. The murals tell stories of the city's past and present and of its people. The West End, in particular, has a high concentration of murals, thanks to the West End Biz mural program. In the summer, the West End Biz conducts mural walking tours. I've been on those tours and seen A Man Called Intrepid featured in them. The mural honors the life of Sir William Stephenson, who lived from 1897 to 1989. Many Winnipeggers know he is considered to be the real-life inspiration for Ian Fleming's James Bond character, but they may not be aware of all of the aspects of his life. While writing about the mural, I met with the artist David Carty to talk about the mural. Carty lobbied for years to have Stephenson recognized in this way. He did an incredible amount of research on Stephenson's life and accomplishments and did a great job of putting so many of those into the mural. The type of passion and dedication he displayed for the project was something I would encounter again and again when talking with other people at other places. I'm going to read a little bit of that chapter now. Winnipeg born and raised, Stephenson was a World War I ace fighter pilot who later became a millionaire entrepreneur. He played an important role in World War II intelligence activities, received over 20 awards and medals, and was knighted in 1945. On the side of the Royal Canadian Legion's former First Branch, you'll find a mural in which artist David Carty has incorporated many aspects of the life of the man codenamed Intrepid. In a Man Called Intrepid is a portrait of Stephenson, several aircraft, a patent document, and the wireless photo transmission device he and a friend developed, a precursor to television. An Enigma machine and Bletchley Park speak to his alerting the British Secret Service, the SS, about the 1930s buildup of German armaments and cipher machines. Information gained due to his industrial connections. Letters wafting through the air refer to transmitted code. You'll see the words Shepperton Studios, the famous British film and sound stage in which he invested. A tank represents the film industry's creation of bogus airfields and army camps to deceive the Germans. Look for the Rockefeller Center where Stephenson ran BSS intelligence operations. There's a reference to the spy training camp he created near Oshawa, Ontario. Badges include that of the CIA, which he helped create. Sir Winston Churchill and Commander Ian Fleming figure in the mural, as well as a drawing of Sean Connery, the first movie, James Bond. So, was Stephenson really the basis for Bond? And there's been debate about this, but in a foreword to room 3603, Fleming says Bond is a meld of qualities he noted among Secret Service men and a highly romanticized version of a spy. He also says Stephenson was one of the great secret agents, and it would be a foolish person who would argue his credentials.
I just want to point out about the picture. I don't know if anyone is familiar with driving down Sargent. There's always a car parked in front of this mural. So you have to time it just right to get this photo. And I will continue to comment on the photo. Okay. So the Seven Oaks House Museum, this is where I first met Donna.
In person.
In person.
Yeah.
And this was my first location, and then I brought my son Bennett with me, who then came to like many other locations without his will. He had to come with me. But this one was really cool because I think we came here in like October. So it was closed then, but we got special permission to go in and tour the house. Yeah, so I just want to say that this was like the perfect spot to kind of think about how would I take cool photos of Winnipeg. And this was just a really good spot to get that going and try to be as creative as possible, because you only want to give a snippet of like what the location is. I don't want to give too much away, otherwise it's like, what's the point? You're not going to go. So I think this is a nice thing. But I want to read this one part because I was waiting to, well, you'll hear the part. Okay. So this is the Seven Oaks House Museum. Each room holds many stories and perhaps lingering spirits. In his book, Haunted Winnipeg, and on his walking tours with Winnipeg Ghost Walk, Matthew Comas recounts paranormal events within the house. You may or may not sense a mysterious presence yourself, but museum staff have heard footsteps and loud smashing sounds when the house is otherwise empty. They found toys and dolls rearranged in the children's room. Non-working clocks have started to tick again. The dining room, where the Inkster's son-in-law, William McMurray, died in 1877 when he choked at the dining table, is reportedly one of the most active rooms. And visitors have fled the second floor master bedroom complaining of headaches and nausea because Mary suffered from migraines and often rested on the room's lounge. So when we were there, we were like waiting, are we gonna get a migraine? Just standing in this room. Did not, but I highly recommend going.
The majority of the places in the book are ones I'd visited and was aware of before getting into the book project. During the writing of the book, I revisited them and interviewed people, and the places became even more interesting the more I learned about them. But there were other places I discovered or explored for the first time during the writing of the book. North Forge Fabrication Lab is one of those. I was aware of the facility and had read a few articles on it, but had no personal experience. I put it on the list early on because of its uniqueness and its reputation. But in the back of my mind, I wondered whether it was really going to work as one of the 111 places. For those of you who may not know what a fabrication lab is, a simple definition is a place where people come together to create objects using special tools. The labs also encourage the sharing of ideas and knowledge. North Forge Lab is located in the Exchange District. And on the first Friday of the month, the Exchange District has its First Fridays event when galleries, shops, museums stay open till 9 or later, have special events, and many private studios open up to the public. North Forge Fab Lab often opens their house at that time too with mini tours. I went one first Friday to get a better feel as to whether this should be in the book or not. One of the first persons I ran into was one of the original founders, someone I'd worked with many years ago. How Winnipeg is that? The city where 6 degrees of separation whittles down to 1 or 2. I started to tell him about the book, and before I'd even finished, he said, "This has to be in it." It didn't take me long to agree with him. I came back with a friend for one of their weekly tours and was blown away. I'm going to read a little bit of that chapter now. You need to see the advanced equipment at North Forge Technology Exchange's Fabrication Lab to appreciate it fully. Weekly tours of North America's largest publicly accessible nonprofit fabrication lab offer that very opportunity. As you walk through this Safe Works certified facility, you'll see carpentry and woodworking machines, laser cutters, an electronics laboratory, metalworking equipment, a water jet cutting table, 3D printers, specialty printers, computer-aided design resources, and more. When you tour the facility, you're likely to be as impressed as King Charles was on his 2014 visit. After the tour, you might be considering joining the community. Among the diverse group of women and men working and learning here, you'll find Red Seal carpenters, students, startups, artists, engineers developing prototypes, retirees taking up artistic endeavors, and tinkerers. The range of equipment allows makers to put together all parts of their creations. For example, a custom knife maker forms the blades, makes wooden handles, laser cuts names into the handles, and creates color graphic packaging. Many members volunteer their expertise to help other community members. A chance meeting between two technology professionals at a TEDx talk led to the lab's creation. With sponsorship from friendly companies and the help of enthusiastic volunteers, the lab opened in 2011. It has grown in space and capability over the years. It is worth noting that members continued to volunteer to help with that expansion, and they continue to help each other. I got the sense of a very strong community. I'd also like to note that community was a recurring theme when I was visiting and writing about places. Building community, being part of the community, and helping people in the community were important to a lot of people at many places. Back to North Forge, it is also a nonprofit incubator helping startups in technology, STEM, and manufacturing go from prototyping in the lab to commercialization. And earlier this year, they opened a maker's market on the main floor of their building in the Exchange, where you can buy wares made by members.
There was actually someone, not this person, but someone who was making the knives that Donna was describing. He was like in his early 20s, so he was like quite young, and like the design of the knife was like very, very cool. So I highly also recommend going there. I think you'd be able to see it on First Fridays, right?
You
Probably,
see,
yeah.
you get a little flavor for it first for Fridays, but to really get a good sense, their weekly tours are fantastic.
Perfect.
And they're free, you just have to register in advance.
Yeah, so that's cool. So this is one of my favorite photos. This is the CESB Ice Tower, which is located, I don't remember the street, but it's by Festival where that's held. Yeah, so I just want to say this is my favorite because it was very random. I was coming home from spin class and I was like, oh, you know, I've had bad luck where just no one just happened to be there. The weather wasn't that great. It was a pretty mild winter. So there was these two guys climbing and I literally, from the other side of the fence, I was like, hey, can I take your photo? And like they were really cool about it. And then the moon was perfectly placed. I didn't put that there. The moon was there. So I really like this photo. And the guy that was climbing, he actually went twice. I didn't tell him to, but I was like, thank goodness, because he was already climbing down by the time I was like, hey. But yeah, this is a very, very cool place to go. And then in case you don't know what it's made out of, it's a wood and steel structure that forms the base of the tower. It's also used in the summertime for rock climbing. And it takes about 200 volunteer hours to plug the climbing holes and ready the tower for winter flooding. Well, the water is then run over the tower for 7 to 14 days. And working across 3 shifts a day, volunteers constantly monitor this process and adjust water flow and pressure to account for temperature and wind direction, so the full length of the tower freezes evenly. And then it becomes smoother over time through natural pockets develop where people have placed their feet, which you can kind of see there. The ice tower is, it's a fascinating site where when people are scaling its sides, and it is impressive to see even without climbers. But I really wanted a climber there, so, because I could have taken this photo at any point, but this was a very nice way to capture this place. So, yeah.
Chapter 68 is about the Manitoba Indigenous Cultural Education Centre and is subtitled Indigenous Art, Culture, and History on Display. A dramatic wooden sculpture by Rick Hall sits in front of its building. Inside is a beautiful space full of light and art. I'm just going to read you the first paragraph right now because it explains what it is. The Manitoba Indigenous Cultural Education Centre, Inc. was formed in 1975 to reclaim Indigenous cultures, languages, and education. They offer language classes, presentations, and art and craft workshops. Over the years, the center has also amassed over 1,000 pieces of artwork and other artifacts of historical and cultural importance in the Heritage Collection, much of which is displayed throughout the center. So although MICEC has existed for almost 50 years, it didn't show up on my radar until a few years ago, maybe 2018 or 2019. I didn't get to it to see its collection before it shut down because of COVID-19. I was eager to visit when it reopened in late winter, early spring of 2023. At that time, I had worked on the book proposal but didn't yet have a deal. I was interested in the place, both as a possible 111 place should the book go ahead, but also just strictly for personal interest. I didn't realize that I had picked the official reopening day for my visit until I arrived there. When I got inside, I found officials, media, food, and a festive atmosphere. The speeches and the following tour gave me an excellent introduction to the place. Weeks later, when working on the book, I talked further with people at the center. I will read more of that chapter now. Outside MICEC is an eye-catching sculpture, a circle of 7 huge wooden poles representing Manitoba Indigenous languages. Animals on the poles symbolize different aspects of Indigenous culture. Step inside and look down to see the star blanket pattern inlaid in the wooden floor. Light streams through 2 levels of windows into the 2-story gathering space. Almond-colored walls, display cases, and ledges showcase the collection. Items on display change regularly, but you're likely to see beaded costumes, carvings, drums, snowshoes, sacred medicines, dream catchers, ceremony regalia, stone tools, pottery, and paintings. MICEC's collection started with a blank wall. The story is that a visiting artist convinced the staff to buy a set of 6 moonline drawings to add decoration, and things took off from there. On the half-walled mezzanine level, you'll find a lending library with over 14,000 volumes, photos, and audio recordings covering all aspects of Indigenous culture. Don't miss the children's area alcove with many books for young readers and a starry night painting in the domed ceiling by Shauna Boulette-Grapentine. The 2010 renovation of MICEC's building, originally constructed in 1902 for All People's Mission, earned a Heritage Winnipeg Preservation Award and created a warm and welcoming space for MICEC programs and its one-of-a-kind collection. First-time visitors are awestruck by its beauty and collection of art. I will also add that those original moonline drawings are still in its collection, and they were on display on that reopening day.
Yeah. That is the sculpture in front of the building. There was almost too much in the building to photograph, so this was like a nice teaser into like what you could walk into. And it's a very nice space, it's very welcoming. I've been there multiple times for many, many events, and it's just very warm and cozy. So. Lovely market. Right. So, funny story. This is one of those locations where I was like, okay, there's gonna be a lot here, and I don't plan on staying very long. So I brought Ben with me, and I had every intention to get in there, get what I needed, get my signature, and peace out. But I ended up going through, I don't know if anyone's been there before, but if you haven't, there's multiple rows and multiple vendors that are at this place. And every space is unique. You have like anime, you have like very vintage things, and then just everything in between. There was a person there who I had a very lengthy conversation with. He had leather. He was selling leather, and Ben actually got a free hat from that. So I should have brought it. It was a little cowboy hat. He almost got the leather boots, but he was like, I'm not parting with those. But anyway, so we continued, me and Ben were just walking around Mulvey Market, and there was this, it's not this space or this particular vendor, but there was a vendor. They had a lot of like nostalgic, like 90s toys that I grew up with. And I was showing Ben, I'm like, hey, like this is what I used to play with. And like, he's maybe, I don't remember how old he was, like maybe 8 months old. So I'm just talking to him and just showing him like all the toys that I used to play with. And there was a gentleman there who he saw me just admiring everything, and he came up to me and we just started talking. Like, I don't know who this person is. I don't remember his name. I'm so sorry. But we had a really nice conversation about being in a really fast-paced life environment and just moving really, really fast. So when I was there, I had every intention of getting in and out as quickly as possible. But when I was talking to this man, he was like, you know, I think we always forget that we need to just take everything in and just enjoy and just really, you know, just be in the moment. And that is something I failed to do when I was here. And so when I left this space, I was like, wow, you know what? I really needed to hear that. And I ended up staying here for almost 2 hours. So my 10 to 20 minutes turned into 2 hours of wandering around, like looking at everything and just having a really nice conversation with this man. So I'm very thankful that I got to speak with him. I hope he's still hanging out, and like I'd like to go meet him again. Maybe I'll bring my partner with me, and yeah, we can look at all the cool toys and stuff that we used to have. So that was a nice, you know, you leave all warm and fuzzy.
And just before writing the chapter, I visited with my daughter, and we had a very similar experience. We talked to a lot of people and just walked around and around. Yeah. So that's the okay. I don't have anything to say about this, but this is the Bruce D. Campbell Farm and Food Discovery Center, and yes, that's my granddaughter. It's a very, very cool place, both for kids and adults.
So then I added my little dude. He's somewhere over there. Yeah, I'm very, very lucky that I was able to include this photo. And then one more surprise. That's my dog on the right, and that's her brother on the left. So I just wanted to add that there. And yeah, that's it.
So you can use this guidebook to explore the city either on your own or with friends. Just read and learn more about it and rediscover places you haven't been to for a while. For those of you that may be driven to see it all and keep count, the publisher's 111 Places Challenge may be for you. Simply put, the challenge is to visit all 111 places in any of the books. When you visit, take a photo, being as creative as you want, and then post it to Instagram, tagging 111 places and including some hashtags they recommend. Email them that you are doing the challenge. There is no time limit.
Unlike me, I had 8 months.
I had a few more months, but I
You are
also had
all
a
very
time.
lucky.
When you reach 50 places, the publisher will send you a book of your choice from the series. At 75, they'll send you another book. If you make it to all 111, you'll get a third book and your picture posted on their website's Wall of Champions. You can find all the details on the 111 Places website. And I think now we're ready to open it up for questions.
Which were some of the interesting galleries that you were surprised by in the book, if any, that
You're looking at like art galleries?
yes.
The Canadian Plains Gallery.
Yeah.
Cow New York is in there, but it's pretty, lots of people are familiar with that one. Trying to put me on the spot to remember all the galleries. I'm not sure how surprised I was at places. I was more delighted than surprised at a lot of the places. Just checking.
Would you consider the Rock Garden a gallery?
The Rock, yeah, it's kind of a gallery, I don't know. Then there's the Bueller Gallery, which is in the St. Boniface Hospital, which is a very lovely, calm, serene space.
Yeah, that's very, very nice.
And then there's Back Alley Arctic, which is an outdoor gallery, which I can't say I was surprised, but more delighted was more of a better phrase, I think. Just double checking that I haven't missed another gallery. There's a couple of public art pieces that are in here as well.
So there must have been places that you really wanted to put in the book, Donna, and you had to leave them out, right? Can you tell us a couple that?
I don't really want to talk about places that didn't make it into the book. There are 111 seems like a big number, but it is a finite number. And so anytime we had to make choices that wound up with something out of the book, it was a little heartbreaking. But what was choices for what got in the book was a balance of like the story behind the place, the experience, the people, and also how it meshed with the other places, because there's a really broad range. You didn't want a couple that were too similar, and it covers a really wide category of places. So because of that, you don't want too many of one. So, and when I first started working on this, I'd have some people say to me, 111 places. How are you going to find 111 places? Well, actually, if you count the tips, I found 222. And there still could have been more, so yeah.
Any other questions?
What would you think is the best way to approach looking at the book?
However you want. I mean, you can use it just to read about the places. It's a lot more fun if you go visit. And so you can choose to visit, here and there, or if you've got a week's vacation and you want to do a real blitz, you could do that. A couple of tips I do have is I would suggest you do not overlook the places that are in the tips, because they are also very interesting. And though there may only be one sentence about them, could have easily written a whole chapter on them. And actually that was one of the harder parts of the book, was trying to capture as much as I could about that place in one sentence. And so, for example, there's a number of restaurants or craft breweries that might be close to the place associated with it. Some are public art pieces, some are historical monuments. The James Avenue Pump House is one of the places in here, and it's a restaurant built around an old pumping station that was built in the early 1900s for firefighting, and has a wall of windows. You can see the old equipment, and there's some old firefighting memorabilia decorating it. The tip for that place is the Winnipeg Firefighters Museum, which is located in an old fire hall and has a really interesting collection of vintage firefighting vehicles and memorabilia. Park Alleys on South Osborne is a tip at another place, and this was a family bowling alley for decades. And during the pandemic shutdown, new owners renovated it. They, restored neon lights, they spruced up, there's a huge mural on one side, they took out a couple of the lanes to create a stage for live music, so now it's a live music venue. It's got a restaurant and a bar that features a wide selection of Manitoba craft beers as well as signature cocktails. So it's really 4 venues in one, in kind of a comfortable neighborhood feel place. So don't forget the tips. The other tip I have is the map at the back, where it lays out the locations of the 111 places. So if you're going to visit one, you can take a look at that map and see if there are others close by that you might want to visit at the same time, or you happen to be in a certain area and want to see if there's a place you could visit while you were there.
What is the oldest?
Oh. Ooh, good question. Might it be Seven Oaks House? I think it might, without going into a lot of looking, I think there's a good chance it's Seven Oaks House.
Any other questions from anybody?
How long did it take you?
So I worked on the book proposal in January of 2023, and it was towards, I guess it was in May of that year that I started more full-time, June particularly, and I was preparing chapters from June of 2023 through to April of 2024. And then we had a couple of months with some editing back and forth and, you know, reviewing the galleys, and it went to print in July.
Oh, yeah, no worries, yeah.
No, I think so you knew about the series, but how did you get involved in it? What made you write the
So I actually found out about the series in, I think it was 2020, when someone I knew in one of my networks had written the Calvary book. And I read it, and then after I read it, I couldn't stop thinking about what places I would include if I were to write a book about Winnipeg. And so I wound up, I thought about it for over a year, it wasn't like, and then I wound up making a pitch to the 111 places people that eventually I got responded to, and then they had a format for a book proposal that I followed so that they could see if it was going to fit, my writing was going to fit, and, yeah.
Okay, we still have a little bit of time left too. So if you'd like, I did post onto the chat online if anyone had questions, so we're just gonna wait for those to come in as well. But were there any other closing comments from the two of you that you'd like to discuss, or any other special places that you might have found that we haven't discussed today?
How did they find each other? Like, how did you find your photographer?
The editor found her.
I was actually a couple of months on mat leave. I don't know if that's that, I'm sorry. And I, to be honest, I thought it was a scam at first. Because I was like, who wants me to take photos of this? Like, this is a pretty big deal. Like I do wedding photography, but I had an interview with the editor, and yeah, she went ahead with me. So it was very, very cool. Yeah.
And we worked well together.
Yeah. Had a great time. Yeah. There was one place that that took forever for me to actually go to because I was kind of scared. I don't like paranormal stuff. So the historic Hamilton House on Henderson, I took forever. I was scared to call even to this person, the place. And when I eventually did, it was a very bright day, and I was like, okay, we're going in, we're getting out, and I don't want to be here very long. But it was fine. I'm still here, so.
You mentioned the James Avenue Pump House as one of the restaurants featured. Were there any other restaurants or really nice spots that you found in the city that you would highly recommend that would be in the book?
Feast. And that is actually one place that we visited together. And we spent quite a bit of time there, talking with the owner, and Krista Bruno Gunther spent a lot of time talking about her story. Is so fascinating. What was the hardest for me to write about this chapter is I could have had it 3 times as long as it is. There was so much interesting stuff, and we got to sample some food. It's on Ellis right at Sherbrooke.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Has your perspective on Winnipeg changed since starting the book?
I think it's more solidified, and like if you were to ask me what words I'd use to describe Winnipeg, like I would use creative, artistic, resilient, party, community-minded. And after the last few years where everyone was shut in with the pandemic, and the stories on the news seem to have gotten more dire, it was maybe you start to get a little jaded about that. And all of the places I went to and the people I talked to just reinforced all of that. It was a very positive experience.
I think showing it picture the Elmhart Bridge as I drove over my dad's whenever it was 56 Pontiac. It's pretty narrow, passing on the car on the bridge, you recall. Did you talk about the PEI?
It's mentioned in there, yes, and then in that chapter, yes.
Yeah, little marking there.
Donna, do you have any plans for doing another project?
I have no plans at the moment. We'll see what happens. There will be updated editions of this over time too, so. That sounds a little overwhelming, actually.
Any more questions to anybody? I'll throw it back out to the audience members. Doesn't look like we have any on the stream just yet. All right, and were there any closing comments from either of you before we move on to the signing portion of the evening?
Just thank you for coming.
Yeah,
Really appreciate
thank
it. Yeah.
This is very cool.
And I haven't fallen off the chair yet.
That's good, that's very good. Alrighty, well, thanks to both of you again for that. We will move on to the signing portion of the evening. So please feel free to approach the signing table to my right. And definitely you can get your book signed before paying for it. That's no worries. Just visit our friends over at the cash desk once you're ready. You can do that before or after you get your book signed. Thank you once again to ACC Publishing Group and to the 111 Places team, to all of you for joining us, and of course to Donna Janke and Gindalee Ouskun. Have a wonderful night, everyone.